talking about my favorite kind of magic, which is shadow magic. And today I'm having a weather situation. So we're gonna ignore that, even though I know it's loud. I'm sorry. Today we're talking about my favorite kind of magic, which is shadow magic. My second favorite kind of magic is necromancy, which I will be doing a video on later at an undetermined date. But right now I wanna— Are you kidding me? Like, what is your problem? My cat does not care about my channel. I'll be doing another video on necromancy when I get my notes together, because there's a lot of necromancy books and I have not read as many of them as I would have liked to in order to actually properly do a video on them. But I have read a lot of shadow magic. Why is this my favorite type of magic, you asked? I think that this stems from me being afraid of the dark. But as many of you know, if you watch my channel, I grew up in evangelical fundamentalism. And part of that is that they teach you a lot about spiritual warfare, which is where demons are in a— My cat literally does not care about me. Okay, so I got super distracted by my cat and never finished my sentence. What I was saying was that because of spiritual warfare, being taught spiritual warfare as a kid, which spiritual warfare, if you don't know, is the belief that there is a supernatural war going on that we cannot see around us between demons and angels and God and all that for your soul. And apparently the demons are out to get you at all times, and demons are taught to people who believe this, by people who believe this, that they are synonymous with darkness, and anything dark, both figurative and literal, is demonic. So that's, I think, where part of my fear stems from. Okay, back to me. So I think part of the reason that I love this particular type of magic is because it's a reclaiming of territory for me over something that had previously been such a source of fear. It's like, what if you could, instead of being afraid of something, have the power to control it? So what is shadow magic? It is literal, like, shadows, and having the ability to either move them, use them to do different things, beings made of shadows, the ability to travel through shadows, basically anything to do with magic stuff involving shadows. Did I explain that well? No. Okay, don't fall. First book I'm going to mention is one of my favorite series. This is my second favorite series. My first is now the Ember Quartet by Saba Tahir, but this is definitely my second favorite, and it is Fury Born by Claire Legrand. This is about two queens, two women who live 1,000 years apart, and both of them are part of a prophecy, and one is the prophesied Sun Queen, one is the prophesied Blood Queen, but you don't know which is which. You don't know how the two women are connected to each other. And one of the women, Riel, it comes to light that she has powers, which means that she's one of the queens. And in order to find out if she's the Sun Queen, which is the good one, they have to put her through some trials to test her magical abilities, and one of those magical abilities is shadow magic, the ability to control it or work against it. And in the trial with the shadow magic, these shadow animals come at Riel, and I don't want to tell you what happens because the trials are really exciting, but basically at the end of them, after she is able to control them, she sort of like grabs control of all these shadow animals that had been conjured and creates a shadow dragon and sends it over to this guy who hates her and has it lick his face. And I was in love with her at that point. Obsessed. If that's not a reason to read this book, I don't know what is. Please read it. It's so underrated. It's criminal. Okay, let's be serious. You all knew this was coming. The next one is Shadow and Bone. Shadow is literally in the title. I think if you don't know what this is about at this point, I would be shocked if you're on my channel because I am a very small booktuber, but it's about a girl named Alina Starkov who enters a place called the Shadow Fold, which is a literal swath of shadow and darkness that cuts the country she lives in, Ravka, into two, and she enters it and then finds out that she has the power of the sun. So the only character in this world who has the power to manipulate darkness is the Darkling, which that name is But this is a excellent book for shadow magic. I have a lot of technical issues with this book, and the only complaint I have about the shadow magic is that I didn't get a Darkling POV, because I would love to hear from his point of view what it feels like to manipulate darkness. You hear a lot from Alina, you hear incessantly from Alina in here, and this book really needed other POVs, but having like the contrast between the shadows and the light, which is Alina, is really cool. That's a cool concept, and I would have loved to hear from his perspective what it felt like to have that power and what it felt like to be in Alina's presence when she is the contrast, the opposite to his magic. So I love it. 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 The next one, I'm not recommending this, but I am going to mention it because the shadow magic part is good. The problem is that the author is just the absolute worst fucking person. One of my favorite depictions, unfortunately, of shadow magic is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. I don't think you should read it, but I am going to mention that I really do think it's cool that he created a character that does all these different things that I would like to see more in fiction. So if you are an author, I would like you to do these things so that I can recommend your book, instead of having to say, hey, this asshole wrote this book and I like his depiction of shadow magic. I wish there was more. So please write more shadow magic. Please feed a girl. I'm hungry. Watch, all the dude bros are gonna come to my comments being like, eat less, fatty. So the main character, Mia, in Nevernight is, and I'm not gonna put a picture, you all know what Nevernight is, but the main character, Mia, has the ability to travel through shadows. She has a shadow cat companion, which is dope, and she has the ability to make her shadow fight with other shadows and wrap herself in shadows so she can hide, which comes with the caveat if she can't see through them because they are like a physical form. And I think that's all really cool. What also is cool is being a decent human being, which unfortunately J. Kristoff can't do, so that sucks. Actually, if you have a shadow magic book recommendation, please leave it down below because your girl is hungry. The next three I can't talk about in depth because it'll go into spoiler territory. So I'm going to call these like honorable mentions and say that if you do like shadow magic, these are books that you should pick up. So first one would be We Hunt the Flame by House of Faisal, and the sequel just recently came out, which is called We Free the Stars. So We Hunt the Flame is about a girl named Zafira and a guy named Nasir, and they end up going on a journey sort of to bring magic back to their land, but it's a little more complicated than that. And Zafira is a character that can enter this, it's sort of similar to the Shadowfold, but it's like an actual forest, which video on creepy forests is coming because that's another thing I like in books. So Zafira is the only person who is able to brave this forest, the Ars, which is a swath of darkness and shadow and trees that is encroaching more and more on the land. So that's sort of a depiction of shadow magic, but there is a character, and this is where it gets spoilery, so I'm not going to say who. There is a character who towards the end of the book does end up finding out that they have shadow magic, and I assume that we will see more of that in book 2, so I'm really looking forward to reading the sequel. Speaking of book 2, my second on this, in this like honorable mentions, is Wind Witch by Susan Dennard, which is book 2 in the Witchland series, the first one being Truth Witch, which is somewhere around here. So Wind Witch I don't have a copy of, but it has, and again I can't tell you without getting super spoilery, but it has a ton of different magics. Blood magic and wind magic and water magic and a magic where a witch can decipher whether or not somebody is telling the truth. It's really interesting, and one of the magics that comes up in this book is shadow magic gets introduced, so it's really cool. This ends on like a really like heart clenching moment, so yeah, that's all I'll say about that. It's really good. I recommend it if you like magic and close women friendships and dudes who are just like obviously in their feelings but can't voice that, and it's also criminally underrated. I just don't know why people don't like it. Everybody hates my favorite books. Okay, so the next one on my honorable mentions list is going to be Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron, and this is about, so the main character is Ara, and she is supposed to have magic but she doesn't, so in order to get magic she does some stuff that's sort of looked down upon, and kids are starting to go missing, and she wants to figure out what's happening. That's sort of like the beginning of the book though, and the book is a lot more than that. The synopsis seems a little bit far away, honestly, from what the rest of the book is. But what I can tell you is not only is there a creepy forest in this, there is a little bit of shadow magic, and I cannot recommend this book highly enough. It got 5 stars. The sequel just came out. I need to reread this. So if anybody's looking to buddy read, I'm interested. It's so excellent. The writing is phenomenal. The relationships in this, like not only like romantic, but like platonic, fantastic. And also it's got a good depiction of like sort of like a dysfunctional family, sort of. It's a little bit more complicated than that. It's excellent, and there's shadow magic, so pick this up. It's not really an honorable mention. It's sort of in a category of its own where eventually shadow magic is going to be introduced, but at this point, after 4.5 books, it's sort of just been like sprinkled in there. It's this. I mean, this is the most recent book in the series. So the Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J Maas has, first of all, I guess I should talk about Rhysand, which I hate that guy now. Rhysand has like darkness and night magic. He's the the lord of the night court, and he is able to create night. He has darkness powers. That's sort of shadow magic. But what I'm really talking about is Azriel, and Azriel sort of bores me, and I think that part of that is because I was hoping that he would get explained more by now, but it's been 4.5 books and we don't know jack shit. And if you're gonna introduce a character called a shadow singer and say that he uses shadows in order to spy, and then 4.5 books later I still don't know how that works, that sucks. I would really like to know more. I would really like just a book where Azriel is not pining over Mor or pining over Elaine. I just want to have him go on some sort of spy mission and tell me about how his magic works. Because that could be really cool if Sarah J Maas decided to write cool shit, which I have a video talking about how I'm very hot and cold on her writing, because sometimes she does really cool things and then other times she does really weird things or just repeats the same things over and over, and it's frustrating. But when she does something cool, she can make it really cool. And I'm hoping that it'll go that way with Azriel. The problem is that I assume the next book will be about not only Azriel, but Elaine and Mor, who bore me to tears. So I would really like to know more about Azriel and his shadow magic, but I don't know that I'm ever going to get that from this. But if you're cool with like shadow magic lightly being tossed into the sphere of your reading, I guess maybe this series will work for you. It's a little bit disappointing for me. The next 2 are books that I honestly did not love. However, you might like them more than I did, and they do contain shadow magic, so I'm going to tell you about them anyway, and maybe you'll enjoy them. Okay, so the first one is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland, and this has Ace Rep, and it's about a girl who her mom is a sex worker, and then some stuff happens and she wants to be like a soul walker like her mom was. All her life she's not had her own, there's like a your soul is a place and you can go there. All her life, instead of having a place where her soul resides, there's like a black door, and her mom like explicitly tells her do not open that door. Actually, it's sort of like that movie Little Nemo. Don't let the darkness out. Oh, maybe that's where this whole thing started for me. Maybe it stems from Little Nemo and him letting the darkness king out. That makes sense. So she ends up opening Black Door and going beyond and finding out stuff. And in her escapades, there is a part, and I don't want to tell you too much because I don't want to tell you what's beyond Black Door. There is some shadow magic that she comes into contact with. It's pretty brief, but it's there. And I feel like if A.M. Strickland wanted to, they could write more shadow magic, and I would be interested because the way that they portrayed it in the book was really compelling. However, I had a lot of technical issues with this book. There was one part that just utterly did not make sense, and it was very pivotal to the plot, so I was pretty disappointed by that. I actually do have a review for this book and the next book I'm going to mention, so if you want my more in-depth thoughts and you've already read them, feel free to watch. The next book is The Shadows Between Us, and oh, did I hate this. I really did. So this is about a girl who she's very ambitious and wants to woo the Shadow King and take over his country. Why does she want to? She has no plans, she just wants to. It's really stupid. Goes to court and she's like, I'm going to woo him. And then she does. It's utterly stupid. It's a really stupid book. But the king has shadow magic, and it's not super explained, but if you like fantasy romance and the idea of shadow magic is compelling to you, you might like this. Just know that the plot is utterly stupid. So if you're just there for like the romance and the oogly eyes, them making eyes at each other and, you know, light magic, this might be a good book for you. So that's it. Let me know if you have any shadow magic recommendations. I am always, always, always looking for more. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to contribute to the work I do here. I mean, it is work, right? It only takes me freaking hours to edit videos. If you want to contribute to my channel, you can do so by donating to my Ko-fi down below. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.